Well, for goodness sakes, hello. Here I am again. It's the beginning of week 4. I trust you are well and finding some good purpose and meaning for your own journey as you work through the various activities of this course. From your thoughtful work and discussion, I'm pretty sure that you are all finding this course to be both challenging and helpful. I do want to repeat what I said in my published general response online to the discussion about the Fellowship of the Ring. Wow, really good work. Thoughtful and challenging, and I love this part, personal. I love the way you think about how these stories connect with your own story. I often have to actually push students to do that, but not with this cohort. It's quite simply a wow conversation. Not just good work, but excellent work, especially as you connect with each other with compassion and good humor. Very grateful for your engagement. I love it. I do want to remind you, maybe not necessary, but just in case, that even though the syllabus says that this week calls for a synchronous session, we're not doing that. Clearly, the discussion that we are having resolves that particular sense of building a community. So disregard. Part of that discussion is built into the discussion questions for week 4. The regular discussion topic for week 4 continues our thinking together about heroes and asks you to kind of step back and reconnect with all 3 of the films we've looked at, but in a big picture sense, drawing some more general observations that we might kind of think of as takeaways. What am I carrying away from this experience? But before, this is important, before you go to work on that discussion and those questions, be sure that you watch the PowerPoint presentation, which is posted on Moodle, titled The Archetype of the Hero. This is a very important, instructive video. You'll find this in the section Required Learning Resources and Activities. It will help you to respond to the discussion within the context of an important understanding of how the hero is understood and what the role of the hero might be. There is a basic pattern, sometimes varied from, but still there's this basic pattern, which we call an archetype. But the PowerPoint will tell you more about that. I've also posted a couple of video clips from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one of my favorite movies. These are really added kind of for the fun of it, but they do connect well to the discussion, and you might find them helpful. Be sure to watch them in the order that I've posted them on Moodle. First, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the segment entitled 3 Trials Scene. And second, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, titled Choosing the Holy Grail. Watch that whole scene. The third and last installment of your life map also takes place in week 4. Its theme is spirituality. Since this can be a vague term for some, I want to provide some additional help. First, spirituality is a generic term. Therefore, it is a broad term, and sometimes it's not very helpful. People say, oh, I have a spirituality, but who knows what that might mean. We often confuse religion and spirituality, and that's understandable because there is a connection, but it may be helpful to you to understand that while all religions have a spirituality, in fact, all of the major religions may have multiple spiritualities, not all spiritualities are based in a religion. So usually we talk about Christian spirituality, or we can also talk about a Catholic spirituality, or a monastic spirituality, or a Buddhist spirituality, or a Muslim spirituality. And within the world of Islam, of course, there are different expressions of Islam, and each of those also has a way of understanding and looking at the world. However, in general, there is a helpful way of thinking about spirituality that's provided by the University of Maryland Medical Center. They define spirituality in numerous ways, but highlight these four. One, a belief in a power operating in the universe that is greater than oneself. That may be the idea of a Christian God, the idea of Yahweh, of the Hebrew faith, maybe Allah of Islam, or it may be a higher power or a force. Yeah, we could talk about the Star Wars, right? The Force. May the Force be with you. So, but there is a sense that there's something greater than me in the world, operating in the world, that I may have a name for it, but it's there nonetheless. Two, a sense of connectedness with all living things. We might call this a kind of an ecological awareness. Some of us have this more than others. Some of us have a very profound sense of a world that is alive and important and valued. Even some spiritualities talk of Gaia, a spiritual force in the universe that is female. I mean, that is in the physical world. But there's this sense that not only am I connected to my brothers and sisters, people, but I'm also connected to the animal world in really important ways, life-giving and sustaining ways, as a matter of fact. Third, an awareness of purpose and meaning in life. Now, you're going to talk about this some with Descartes and Sartre, our two influential thinkers, because they have very different perspectives about this. But by and large, there is an awareness that I have a purpose and I have meaning, and it is somehow connected to my sense of higher power and my interconnectedness and why I'm here. What is my place in the world? And finally, the development of what may sound like a kind of contradiction, but really is a paradox, the development of personal absolute values. Okay, absolute values that you personally hold as absolute. You may also think of these absolute values as connected to that higher power operating in the universe, or that idea of interconnectedness, but you hold on to these, as we've seen with Beckett and Romero and Frodo. It's what gives character, right? I have these, it's like Martin Luther's famous statement, "Here I stand, God help me, I can do no other." Some would say that, so those are the four. As you think about your own spirituality, you might think about it in terms of those four. Some would say that worldview is another way of talking about spirituality, a synonymous word even for spirituality. It's the way you find meaning and hope and comfort and inner peace in your life. Although spirituality, as I said, is often associated with religious life, many believe that a personal spirituality can be developed outside of religion. Acts of compassion and selflessness, altruism, the experience of inner peace, these are all characteristics of spirituality. I hope that helps you. It's very brief, kind of on the surface, but it is essential understanding of what we mean, or at least what we mean in this course for the term spirituality. This week also ends our exploration of significant philosophers. One of my favorite historians, a writer named Thomas Cahill, has written a series of books that are about what he calls hinge moments in the history of the human race. Moments in history when civilization goes through some fundamentally worldview shaking change. Sometimes like that are found in the six thinkers that we've looked at this course, along with people like Galileo and Copernicus, like Einstein, like Martin Luther King Jr., like Gandhi. These are all world changers. The history of the human race turns often on their lives and work in the world. With Descartes and Sartre, we enter the modern era and some decidedly different ways of thinking about the world. In this case, unlike the previous two explorations, when you just chose one of the two, this time I'm asking you to work on both of them and fill in a chart. You don't have to develop a lengthy paper for this. Fill in a chart that you'll find on Moodle. Descartes is considered the father of the modern era. Sartre is called an existentialist, the father, really, of existentialism. The way these two men approach philosophy is fundamentally different than the four that we've looked at before. I'll be really interested in hearing your thoughts about them. By the way, in the name of full disclosure, the notification at the end of the Sartre video about a last-minute conversion to Christianity is most likely a fabrication. I'm not sure how this got into the video, and we are working on finding a better one for it, a replacement for it, but for now, simply disregard that. Finally, let me call your attention to week 5. It's just around the corner. There's not as much work required for week 5, and remember, we're dropping the synchronous sessions. But the fact that there is less to do is actually another way of saying how important this week is. This is a drawing it all together week, a takeaway week, and here's what's going on with me week. The focus for this week is a kind of so what question. Be sure to look ahead. Why am I telling you this now? Because I want you to look ahead about the assignment titled Personal Ontology Presentation. This is a very important final project. I encourage you to check it out as soon as possible. And if you have questions, ask them early. I'll be posting something more about this more toward the middle of the week, of week 4, that will provide some further direction and perhaps an example of how this might work. So pay attention for that. Look forward to week 4, engaging with you again about the important work of this course. That's enough, and that's a lot, I know. Talk with you soon, and keep up the good work. Blessings on your journey.